I mentioned this the other day when I mentioned that my grandfather built radio towers. And I originally moved to Colorado because I was going to consider taking over his business. That was until I climbed up like a third of the way on one of those towers and realized that's not for me. Um, I realized, and at that point in time, Steve, believe it or not, I was a skinny kid. I was still smoking and I was definitely drinking way too much to try to climb a tower. Doing that when you're hungover? No, 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 no. Yeah. Oh, yeah. You think you can fly, and those towers make you feel like you're doing it. Really funny story with that is my grandfather fell off a couple towers, and the worst accident he ever had was when he was working in Denver, and he fell off a tower and did some pretty severe damage to himself. But the tower was right on top of the hospital. He got out of surgery, and the doctor went into his room and he was gone. And they caught him as he was trying to go back out and get onto the tower. And I'm like, oh my God, this guy, of course, that's way before I was born, but still. But the thing about it is that, you know what? They worked so hard and they didn't have to use computers. Computers weren't around for them to use. Hell, I don't think my grandfather ever used a calculator, and math was something very important to his job. With what we do now, our guest makes sure that your information stays safe because everything is computers now. I'm proud to bring to you Steve Duckfield. How you doing, my friend?
Good, Zach. Thanks. Your tower story kind of reminded me of something. When I was a kid, and I would say like 8th grade, 9th grade. My best friend Tom, he lived, I don't know, like 5-10 minutes away from me, and at the end of his block there was this there was a soccer field. And behind the soccer field was an area you really weren't supposed to go down, but we went in anyway. And there was like an abandoned building. We actually thought somebody lived there. And there was this huge tower. And, one of the ways he would get rid of some of his old toys and stuff like that was he would climb up way up high on the tower and he'd just drop them to see what survived. And if it survived, he'd donate. And I remember quite a few of his old toys just shattering. And I am terrified of heights, which is odd because I do like roller coasters. But I remember looking down and I was already terrified of climbing up that thing. And I am so white knuckled and like holding on to that thing. And I'm watching him drop stuff and it's shattering. I'm like, that could be my body.
Yeah.
So yeah, I remember that. That was that was frightening.
Well, like I said, I climbed up about a third of one, and I mean, I looked down, and a third of one, you're still in the girthier part of this tower, the part that's still wide, 6 foot wide, and that thing is doing this, and you're like, whoa. So, and of course, it didn't help that I was quite hungover at the time, but that's what I get for trying to think that I was a drinking master, I suppose. So, Steve, you started Phoenix Backups after you had a career where you were working for other people and you enjoyed doing it, but you knew that you could do it better.
Yeah. I mean, the joke that I tell everybody when I first meet them on a business call is that I popped out of the room with a laptop and a Wi-Fi card before either were invented. And I've always been fascinated with computers. My first computer was a Commodore 64. I started even learning programming off of it. And as I went through school and everything, I got more and more interested in it. And, I built, my family then bought a computer. And then after that, I built them a computer after that computer kind of was done. Um, and then professionally, right out of high school, I worked for a help desk for the largest vitamin company in the world, and that was a great experience. Um, After I left there, I had gone on to a few other jobs, and then right around 2018, yeah, 2018, I got into a car accident, and at the time, I was working for Motorola Solutions or Zebra Technologies. They changed, and I couldn't go back to work. The interesting thing is that the disability ran out, said I had to go back to work, but my doctor said, nope, I'm not clearing you to go back to work. So I'm like, well, I got to make a living. So I ended up going back to work. And I have to say, my last 3 jobs of going back to work were not the best as far as management was concerned. And, after working for a year and a half at my final job, I worked at an MSP, which is a managed service provider. And I was, again, there for a year and a half. And after 2 raises and a promotion, they called me in roughly a year ago and said, we're sorry, it's just not working out anymore. And that was the end of it. And I just got tired of it. And I said, I have all this experience. I know I can do it. And why should I be making them money when I could, be making myself and my family money and supporting, the people that I care about instead of them. So that's where I started.
I I'm always curious what you would say to somebody who wants to take that jump, take that leap and start a business on their own. Somebody who maybe was in a situation like yours, because I always tell Steve that, you know what, if you have the desire, if you have the courage, because it takes courage to do it, it really does. And if you have the patience, which is something that, you know, you're a rare breed if you have the patience to stick through all the BS that you have to do. But do it, go for it, try your hand at business. Just don't do it the way I did it, because the way I did it hurts like hell. You know, I hit a fence at 25 miles an hour head first, so that's not a great way to do it. What is your suggestion to, to give to somebody who's like, you know what, I can do it better than they do it?
Well, first of all, there was a quote, and I don't remember this. I was young when I read this story, and I don't remember the name of it. It was an online fiction story, and what the theme of the story was, you pass this way but once, and the only regrets in life you should have are from the things that you didn't do because of inaction or fear. So, if you don't do it, you're going to end up regretting it. If you do it, failure is not failure unless you let it stop you. So failure is just falling forward. You pick
Yeah.
yourself up, you keep going. Um, if even if it doesn't work out where you have to stop, for whatever reason, there's no reason you won't have any regrets on it, because you can at least say, you know what, I did my best. Instead of wondering my whole life while you're dreading waking up every morning, dreading that commute to go to a job that you probably don't like anymore, which is why you want to start your own business. And it just becomes miserable. You become miserable, and then that spills over into your personal life, because your friendships and your relationships, whether it be romantic or family or whatnot, are going to suffer because you're they always say leave work at work and don't take it home. Well, I haven't found a way to do that. And if someone else knows how to, please email me and tell me
Yeah.
how you do it, because so far in my 40, I'm 42 years old right now, and I still haven't figured it out.
Yeah, it's it's impossible to do that. It's like telling you to, don't let your relationship with your spouse leave like blend in with your kids. You
Mhm.
know, you can't do it. It's impossible to do. I I find it one of my favorite things to tell people is failure's not a thing unless you don't learn something from it. You do not fail unless you don't learn something. Failure is the best way to learn anything. Is okay, this is what I did. You know what? This sucks. I hate that didn't work. But guess what? If I tweak this, I think we're on to something fantastic. I me personally, I'm always on the look for my Sturgis. There's the biker coming out in me. Sturgis started out as a couple guys getting together to go for a motorcycle ride. Look what it is now. It's huge now. So I'm always looking for my Sturgis, and I'll go and I'll throw anything at the wall. Hell, we've done events where we've broken eggs over our head to see how that went. Unfortunately, that went fantastic, and people really liked it, except for me. And getting eggs, and me being a fat guy and liking omelets, that just we couldn't do that no more. I couldn't eat an egg for like 3 months. It was gross. But um, what are some of the things, Steve, that you learned from other companies that you implemented into your business? And what are some of the things that you learned from the companies that you said, I'll never do it that way?
Absolutely. But first, I want to make one more comment to your previous question. And so,
Yeah.
if I was talking to you, Zach, and especially about you going and hitting a fence at 45 miles an hour, I would recommend bubble wrapping yourself.
Yeah. I've always said, Steve, I don't know if you've ever heard me say this, but I've always said, if Community Pay It Forward does not succeed, I will start a bubble wrap clothing company. I'm going to start designing clothing. Okay. And you know me, if I start designing clothing, there's going to be a lot of hockey jerseys everywhere. So,
But to answer your question, yeah, I'm going to start off with the things that I won't do.
yeah.
One of the things that I won't do is not be transparent with the people that I work with, whether they're a client or whether they're the people that work, under me, or I should say for me. Um, you know, I'm very big into teamwork, and there's a lot of companies out there that say that's their culture as well,
Hmm.
and I haven't seen it. Um, when I worked at the help desk in my first, not the help, yeah, at the help desk there. I don't want to say it was cutthroat, but there was definitely some competition there, and a lot of egos thrown around. Not from necessarily from management, but from fellow employees. But management didn't do anything to stop. And I'm not ashamed to say, hey, look, I was a lot younger back then. Just coming out of high school and all that stuff. So I thought I was, King Kahuna as well. Um, but I throughout my years, that actually got tempered when you got in front of people who make you feel like that because
Yeah.
their knowledge is so much. So one of the things that I do in my business is I have a very small team, but with that team, always letting them know what's going on. I'm always asking for their advice. Steve Jobs said it the best. I don't need to be the smartest person in the room. I just need to hire them. So, um, the people that I have working for me are very, very smart, and they've been helping to drive my business forward. So those are things that I won't do. As far as I will definitely be transparent, and I won't just say it. I'll do it.
Hmm.
Um, Things that I will bring in more on a technical side. My last MSP that I worked for, you know, I was the manager of the help desk there, and one of the things that they did was something called Backup Fridays, and I did try to change that, and I got a lot of pushback both from the people that were that reported to me and the people that I reported to. Until finally, towards the end, they said, "Oh yeah, we need to do that." Um, but back, it was just bad. I don't even want to go into what Backup Fridays was because it would just yeah. Anyway. I because my business is backups, disaster recovery, infrastructure hosting. We take it seriously. So I've got lots of tools that monitor if something goes wrong, and I get emails, text alerts, notifications on Slack, and all that stuff. So one thing I can say is that I have learned to be a lot more responsive than them. And the other thing that I've learned is be very open to new technologies. That was something I have to say that the MSP that I worked for did very, very well. Was they were very open to new technology. When I got there, my last 8 months there, I think we adopted at least 3 or 4 new technologies that were in the company, and so I'm always open to it. If someone can show me how I can do what I'm doing better, 100% open to it.
I always think that we also need to leave ourselves open for uh, other people's skills. As as with the story with my grandfather, you know what? He could teach anybody, how to put a tower together without using like this extra equipment. Yet a kid today could teach him how to do it by standing on the ground with a remote control, you know. And if we could take and we could put them together and we could learn together how to do it, I mean, I just don't see why you would discount anybody for what they are good at. And that's one of the things that I love about what you said. You know what? I don't have to be the smartest one in the room. That's when it comes to social media. I don't have to be. I don't even want to be the smartest one in the room. Social media it's spooky to me because I just don't understand what these kids are talking about today. I don't quite understand, what goes on social media a lot of time. So having other people do that, I get so angry when I see people. Yeah, I showed my kid a rotary phone and asked him to make a phone call. Ha ha ha! It's funny. Watch these idiots, and they're like going, "Okay, here's the newest iPhone. Figure it out." Okay, ask your kid to figure it out, and 2 minutes later, your kid's got everything fixed. It's like, yeah, ha ha ha. So, um,
That was a great Grandpa Simpson impression, by the way.
get off my lawn. Uh, that's one of the cool things about getting older is I get to pull that off a little bit more. So I like that. Um, a lot of people don't like it when I do it, but that's okay. What you personally, why computers? Why the love with computers? Why wanting to stick with computers? Why didn't you decide to take and go do something else?
I did for a little while. I mean, I was still with computers, but I ended up really liking DJing as well, and I've DJed in several clubs and successfully. But the latest and greatest thing has always fascinated me in technology. Um, and also knowing how computers work was a thing. And my friend, my friend Joe, and he's a great guy with cars. Like he could
Yeah.
take a car apart, put it back together, and all that. And he said, rebuilding a car, working on a car is like Legos. You like Legos? And I'm like, yeah. And I thought, that works the same here, with computers, because each spot only has one. Each part of your computer has one spot they can plug into, and one way. So it's kind of like, okay, well, let's put it together and see what we can do. I also remember really being into seeing the movie Hackers. That was fun. And then also the original Mission Impossible and the graphics they had on that when they were going over, when Tom Cruise is sitting there hanging there and he's downloading the schematics and all that stuff and the list. I mean, I always found that fascinating and stuff like that. So, and it just kind of came natural to me. It was, my brother was into it for a while, and then, he went into a different career, and I just ended up sticking with it because I just found them to be so great. It was just a way to connect with people too. I mean, even when I was in junior high and high school, I was big into IRC, which is Internet Relay Chat, and I was making friends with people from all over the world. And that was before your Facebooks and your MySpaces and all the other stuff out there. I mean, the best you had besides that was AOL Instant Messenger. So, I feel like I'm aging myself here.
Hey, you know what? This is
Oh,
actually, yeah, this is kind of funny because I belong to a network now that they pride themselves on having like an old school chat, and they make it like, yeah, come on, this is like a 1990s chat room.
yeah,
What the hell's a chat room? I knew nothing about it. I knew nothing about it. Never been in a chat room in my life. So it was weird to me.
yeah, they can be. And then, one of the things I wanted to do, while I was in high school as an unofficial job, I got paid for it, don't get me wrong, but it was definitely an
Introducing
unofficial
Shop, Click,
job.
and Pick, the simplest way to
Yeah,
support
give
those
me
doing
1
good
second.
in communities everywhere.
Right with you.
We understand that shopping
I
is
only
a
knew he
necessity,
had cats,
but with
so
a slight adjustment,
no,
you
it's
can make
okay.
a huge difference
You know
without
me, I
spending
usually
any
got
extra
mine
money.
too that are climbing
Here's how
all
it
over
works.
me. So
Please visit
Yeah, the
communitypayitforward.us
folks that live
and navigate
downstairs
to the
from me,
Find
they have a
Your
dog,
Partners
and
tab.
they're
Discover our
the
verified giving partners,
yeah,
which are trusted
the
allies
question
ready to meet your needs.
simply,
Shop
and of
with
course
any
there
of the
goes my
partners that
phone
resonate
ringing,
with you.
So why
Click a
not? Let's
picture
just
of
make
the receipt
everything
or
go weird.
invoice, then pick the mission
sure, why
partner
not?
you
So,
wish to support and use their QR code to send the receipt directly to us. After that, all you have to do is sit back and enjoy your purchases, knowing that you've made a meaningful change for someone in need. Community Pay It Forward amplifies your business's impact by sharing the story of those who require your services, rallying support for those who need us all. Because no one needs to go it alone when we all come together.
Let's. I can't remember where we were at. I know we were talking about the chat room. Oh,
Right,
yeah,
right.
yeah. Why computers
Why
was
computers?
the question.
Yeah, when I was in high school, it was like I was 6 months into high school, and I was on IRC, and I met there was a guy that was went to a Linux help chat, and I was helping him out, and then he offered me a job. Um, he was actually one of the first cybersecurity companies in the private sector out there, and so I worked with him for about until right towards the end of high school, and you know uh, his company moved on to other things. So and then I moved on to working at the help desk, but that was a lot of fun too. I've always also wanted to own my own business as well since I was a kid. Especially right out of high school, I really wanted to do it on my own. But I really didn't have the experience, and I sure as hell didn't have the capital to do it. So then it took some time to be able to do it.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about Phoenix backups. Tell me, what do you guys specialize in?
Sure, yeah. It's really simple. We keep your data safe. We provide secure data backups, which means that when you back up your data with us, it goes into what's called a secure repository or immutable repository. And what that means is that once it's written, it is written in stone, which means nothing can touch it for a period of time that you specify. We usually recommend about 14 to 21 days. And what that means is that when it lands on my servers, my network can be riddled with malware, viruses, and all this other stuff. It can't touch your data because your data is now written in stone. And malware, ransomware, they can't encrypt it. It's like it hits a wall. Um, and so we do that. We provide disaster recovery solutions and business continuity for businesses, which is the other side of the backup. So we back up your data, but we help you restore it in case there's an emergency. And we also do disaster recovery exercises. We help you write plans depending on the packages you get. The third thing that we do that kind of ties it all together is what's called infrastructure hosting. So instead of companies spending thousands and thousands of dollars on servers to host in their own building or whatnot, they can host it in my cloud environment, and we set up a secure connection between that and them. And now they've just saved money on it and putting it all together. Now they have a complete package where, they've now taken out the risk of something happening to their physical building, like a flood, fire, tornado. If you happen to be in a questionable part of the world, a nuclear missile strike, um, from happening to your building and losing your servers and your data.
Let's go a little bit of doomsday talk here. What are some of the things that we don't think, an everyday person wouldn't realize that if somebody gets a hold of this data, they can do a lot of damage with it? Okay, we all know, look, if somebody gets a hold of my social security, oh my God, that's a huge problem. If they get a hold of my birth date, oh my God, this could be a problem. What are some of the things that we don't back up enough to where if something happens, we could really be in a lot of trouble?
Sure, yeah. Well, first off, if someone gets my birth date, I demand that they send me a present on my birthday.
I agree.
But secondly, as far as business is concerned, there's a lot of folks out there that don't even back things up at all. A great example of that, I mean, they do it now, but a great example of it was the Colonial Pipeline in 2021. And they provided the natural gas for a good chunk of the United States. And in 2021, they got ransomware, and they had to pay 4.2 million in Bitcoin to get their stuff unlocked, so that the rest of the country can start being serviced again. And they were only able to get back from the Department of Justice 2.2 or 2.1 million out of it, because of the prices in Bitcoin always fluctuate. So the big thing is, you have to figure out what is most important to you to back up, whether you are a business owner or a consumer, like an everyday user, consumer, and whatnot, and then really find a way to back it up and know what an actual backup is. Putting something on Google Drive, on OneDrive, Dropbox, Box.com, or any of the others, it's not a backup. All those are syncing platforms, and what that means is that you put a file up there, it'll push it out to any other device that's connected to that cloud platform. That's not a true backup. A true backup is, you can put, the easiest thing you can do to back something up is you can put it on a USB stick, for like the photos of your friends, families, and, those precious memories, and put that USB stick someplace safe. I would venture to say that is the most basic form of a backup. Nowadays, you really want backup software. And when you're choosing that, you really want to go with something that's well known. Obviously do your research on it, but you definitely want to go with something that's well known, because those are the technologies that are proven. And with your data, you don't want to play games, right? Like, you're not going to hand me your credit card if you don't know me, right?
Right.
Otherwise I could say, hey, I'm going on a shopping spree.
Yeah.
Daddy wants a new Maserati. And, it's the same thing. And if your data ends up getting held hostage, right? Like, if you don't do backups of your computer, I recommend that everybody do a backup of your computer. Windows has a built-in backup tool that you can use. That's about the best free you're going to find. Outside of like a Veeam Community Edition, I also highly recommend that. But if someone ransomwares your computer, there's no guarantee that that you're going to get your data back if they do, even if you do pay them. And there's also no guarantee that once you pay them and then you get your data back, that they're not going to do it again to you, because they've already got the in to your computer. So if you have backups, at least like a once a month backup, you can go back to that backup and say, okay, well, I've only lost a month's worth of data, or depending on how important your data is to you, and then and restore it. And now the folks who ransomwared you, well, now they're out of business, because now you've kind of taken away the gun from them, so to speak.
So what is the difference? All right, let's go on ahead and let's do this. Sell me. Why should I
why should I come to you rather than use the free backup?
Because using the free backup only gives you a certain amount of features. Number one, one of them is encryption, so you won't get that. You won't be able to encrypt your own data. Number two, you have to find a spot to store it that's safe, right? So now, unless you're going to go spend hundreds of dollars to go buy a fireproof space, a fireproof safe, a waterproof safe, and whatnot, to put these USB drives or whatever backup medium you choose into a safe, and again, hope that nothing happens to it, or no one breaks into your house and steals it, anything. There's a lot. My data, when you send your data to me, when I back up your data, it goes into a secure data center, which means only the employees that are there that have certain types of clearances are allowed to be anywhere near those servers. So you can rest assured your data is safe. And the software that I use, does offer, in-transit encryption. And on top of that, when I'm backing, when I work with businesses, so when I'm setting up a backup connection with them, I'm setting it up over VPN, which adds another layer of encryption over it. So you've got 2 layers of encryption, plus that immutable repository, which means once your data gets there, nothing can touch it. So that's why you want to go with somebody like me, rather than somebody who's offering free backup tools.
You had mentioned something earlier, and you have in 2 weeks coming up. You've got a webinar coming up about disaster recovery. You mentioned it earlier, and I just wanted to make sure that we covered what is disaster recovery. What are you going to be talking about, and what are some of the misconceptions of disaster recovery?
Sure. I'm going to start off with the misconceptions. So those are my favorite. And the misconception is with disaster recovery that it's a set it and forget it type of a thing. Like you create a plan. Okay, I've done it. I can check off this box. I now have a disaster recovery plan. But if you never test it and you don't, and I mean testing it like once a quarter, which is best practices and recommended. But even if you did it every 6 months, you can get away with that. But I mean, again, I recommend once a quarter. If you don't do that, and then an actual disaster happens, what's a disaster? Okay, so the physical disasters: fire, flood, hurricane, tornado. Again, if you're in an interesting part of the world, missile strike, and your building goes poof, that's a disaster. And you don't even have to have that. One of the companies I worked for when I was a network administrator, before I had gotten there, it was like 4 months before I got there, they had a car drive into the building, because they were drunk. I'm sorry, it was a telephone pole. The car hit a telephone pole, knocked the telephone pole over, and the cables ripped out of the wall. So there was a gaping hole on the outside wall of the building because of that. It's a disaster. Now you have more internal disasters where you can have like a disgruntled employee, and they say, you know what, I'm about to get fired. Well, let me go do some damage, and they do something where they delete all the data on the server, or they do something that locks everybody out. Those are disasters. You get hacked and you get ransomware. That's a disaster, because anything that's going to interrupt the operations of your business is a disaster. And the talk that we're doing covers, the webinar covers those different types of disasters. We talk about disaster recovery, how to create a policy, what that policy should include, and really going about testing it. I don't want to say the right way, but testing it as if it was actually happening instead of just going through a motion to check off a box. There was a great example of this. There was a company in this year, it was June. The name of the company was Unisuper, and they're an Australian-based company, and they had their entire platform on Google Cloud. So all of their virtual machines, all their virtual servers lived on Google Cloud. And somebody at Google panicked and hit the panic button, and it wiped them out. They did have some backups, and they did have a disaster recovery plan, but that neither of those had been touched in over a year. So it took them, because Google, I mean, Google did end up working with them to restore some of that data, and they had to go back and forth with what Unisuper had versus what Google had as far as who had what. They were down for at least a week, and they lost millions, if not billions, of dollars because of that. And if somebody has billions of dollars to throw away, there is this Steve would like his own private islands fund.
Yeah.
And so we're going to be talking about that in 2 weeks for the next webinar.
And how do people find out how to attend this webinar?
We're going to be putting some information on Eventbrite for the webinar. So all you have to do is just do a search for Phoenix Backups webinar in Eventbrite, and you'll be able to find us. And there'll be a link there for you to register, and you'll get a link to join the webinar. And I definitely would encourage anybody who's just even curious about it. There's that saying, the more you know. So I recommend, even if it's not your field. And the best thing you can do is afterwards ask questions. If there's something you don't understand, ask questions. And honestly, I would be happy to have a one-on-one with anybody who joins that webinar to clear up any questions they may have. Part of this whole thing is educating. And if I'm not being clear on something, I want to be able to clarify it for you.
I think the one thing about computers, and I think it's very well proven that as soon as you think you know something about a computer, it's going to change, and you're going to have to learn something new. So talking to somebody who's a professional and up on what's going on is so vitally important. Steve, if you get me that information, if you get me that Eventbrite, once you've got it copied, I'll attach it to this information and share it out as well. So, but Steve, how do people get a hold of you?
Very easy. You can go to www.phoenixbackups.com, and there are multiple spots in there that say contact us. There's a phone number there. Our phone number is 877-393. Oh gosh.
I hate it when that happens.
6033. Yeah, I was like, wait, oh my God, 6033. Wow, senior moment. You can also get a hold of me through my email, steve.duckfield@phoenixbackups.com. We're also on LinkedIn. You can definitely find us on LinkedIn, Alignable. So I'm out there, and you're more than welcome to message me. I love meeting new people and talking to new people, and I love learning about their businesses too, because there's so many things that are outside the realm of technology that is just amazing. So especially the coaching businesses that are out there now. Some of those folks that I've been meeting, especially through Alignable, have been just phenomenal. So I'm open to meeting people from all walks of life and all walks of industries, and I would love to talk to them.
Well, I really hope that we are working together here very soon, and I appreciate you joining me today. Please. Please, if you have anything else that you would like to talk about sometime, please feel free to come on and join us again.
Absolutely, I will, Zach. Thank you so very much.
Hey, no problem. This has been Steve Duckfield with Phoenix Backups, and we will be right back. This holiday season, as the world celebrates in so many ways, some families are facing it apart, feeling the weight of loneliness. At a miracle of a community that cares, we are creating a space where everyone, regardless of faith or background, can share in the joy of this wonderful season. Join Santa and leaders from all walks of life for stories, special shout-outs, and heartfelt messages from loved ones near and far. Children are taking the lead with art and fun, helping us bring the gift of books to children everywhere. Children in hospitals, children to families of all faiths, and to fortify traditions of families. This season, let's come together as a global community
one that cares, one that gives, and one that embraces all cultures, part of the miracle. Join us from December 24th to December 26th, and let's make this season unforgettable for everyone.